Hi everyone, we have got Amanda Foster here today. She's letting us have a little bit of her time in her busy life. Amanda is a Waikato Bay of Plenty Magic Team physiotherapist. She has a master's in physiotherapy. She's worked with many rugby and netball teams over her time, and she used to work for Netball New Zealand and ACC in the NetballSmart injury prevention program last year. So, hello, Amanda.
Yeah, netball.
Netball. Netball is life.
Yes, netball is life.
How have you been?
Yeah, pretty good. Really looking forward to getting back into netball, to be fair, and getting back into a little bit closer to normal. But yeah, it's still been good through the lockdown period. We've stayed connected with all of our Magic girls through lots of these sorts of meetings, lots of Zooms, lots of other bits and pieces, and also my other in-clinic patients too. So
yeah, awesome.
Been good.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about your sporting journey?
Sure. I played netball, was my sport that I loved. I wouldn't say I was ever amazing at it, but I loved it, so it didn't really matter. I played from, I think, 5 right through to 25, 26. Only reason I stopped is I had babies, and then found I was involved in netball through my physio role, and so weekends often started to get taken up by that rather than my own sport quite so much. But yeah, I was an amazing goal keep at 1.64 m, you know, so claim to fame. But no, so I loved the sport, and so I, working within it was a simple transition, I guess.
Yeah,
that's
awesome. So what do you do as your role as physiotherapist for the team?
So I take care of all of the injury management, so the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff, I guess you could say, but we have a really big focus on prevention. So working really hard with our strengths and conditioning trainer, Barry, to make sure that our girls are as fit and strong as they can be to minimise their risk of getting injured in the first place. And then also we have a athlete monitoring system that we use with our players, so they have to record all of their training, how hard they felt that training was, how much time it took, all of those sorts of things, so that we have a really good appreciation of how much work they're doing every week, so that we know it gives us an idea about their relative risk of getting injured, because if they're not doing enough, that increases their injury risk when you've got a really hard session coming up, or if they're doing too much, equally that also increases their risk. So there's this happy little sweet spot that we're trying to get to, so that they can perform at their best, have minimal injuries, and just get to play netball, really. That's kind of part of it. Obviously I tape and do all of those other kind of hands-on treatment with players. And what else do? We do lots of preventative kind of exercise-based management. So each player has their own specific, I should say, activation or group of exercises that they do prior to every training that's specific to them. So that they can keep working on what they need to work on to help them either get better at something, a goal that they want to work on, or work from an injury that they are still either recovering from or know they just need to keep on top of.
So do you and Barry just work together in programming all the activation stuff? Or?
We usually talk together. We have a meeting with Barry, myself, and Amos, our head coach, every week, and we have essentially discuss where our players are at, and then if we've got specific needs with a player, both Barry and I work out what that looks like. So so that their programming sort of matches and we work together, rather than it being really, I do this and he does this, and
like a model.
And trying to make it really consistent for our players too, because otherwise they're getting information from all over the show. So
definitely.
So there's that, and then what else? yeah, we have a few meetings, and on game day, certainly get to go out for lunch usually, which is nice, but that might change now with all of the new requirements with our COVID plan. But yeah, basically my role, there's a little bit of treatment, but most of it's really about player management, prevention, and trying to keep them on the court.
Yeah. So do you travel with the team to all the games?
Yes.
Yep. And are you at all the practices, or?
Yep. So I'm at all court trainings and captain's runs and games. And so I travel with them for all of those. Sometimes if I have the opportunity to, it just depends. I try to get to some strength and conditioning sessions, but to be fair, time-wise, that often doesn't happen as often as I'd like. But yeah, so I think in an ideal world, that would be awesome to be able to do a bit more of that. But yeah, at the moment, not so much.
Yeah. So is that your only job at the moment, or are you working in other practices, or?
Yeah, so I work at a clinic in Hamilton called Active Health, and so I work just in a private practice clinic where we see just anybody and everybody that is injured. Doesn't have to be sport related, so it gives me a really nice mix of seeing, I guess, these elite athletes versus just our normal everyday population, which actually have the same problems, to be fair. And you know, the goals might be a little bit different, but what you do with them often isn't. So sometimes when we're looking at like return to work planning, that's no different to a return to play plan. So so it gives you a nice balance between the two.
Yeah, because you could probably forget what the other life is going to like if you don't balance it out, eh?
Yeah.
So why did you choose physiotherapy? Did you always want to get into sport physiotherapy, or was it?
Yeah, I've always enjoyed sport. I love sport, played heaps of sport when I was growing up. I think I played cricket, squash, netball, volleyball. Netball was always my mainstay, but you know, always played other things just because I enjoyed it and it was good fun. And I unfortunately got a little bit injured, usually playing netball. Unfortunately. So the odd ankle sprain and those sorts of things that I ended up going to physio for. And so I just liked what that was and that ability to connect with people and help people get back to things that are really meaningful to them. So that's kind of what I saw, and so looked into it a bit further and then went down that track and really love it. So I originally worked in the hospital when I first graduated for about 1.5 years, which was a really good grounding for learning, but always wanted to go into private practice. So I did that, and then did a couple of years and then went back and did my master's in musculoskeletal physiotherapy, which is a bit more specific to sport as well as kind of private practice based work. And then also did some papers in sport and exercise science and strength and conditioning type work.
Nice. So what are your thoughts on like playing multiple sports when you're growing up?
I think it's really important. Sometimes, you know, you can always have your favorite sport. That's cool. And I definitely had my favorite, which was netball. But the balance that other sports give you and the skills that they give you, if you're just doing the same thing all of the time, you're not giving your body that chance to be as adaptable or resilient to movement. And so certainly I think the more kind of variation in sports or trying different things and finding what you love is really important, because if you love it, you're going to play it because you enjoy it, and then if you happen to be good at it, then that's really important. So I think it's really, and we know from research perspective that playing multiple sports is preventative of injury. It tends to reduce the risk of players coming in with overuse type injuries and those things, particularly when you're growing. So do you think there's like or is there much research out there
like at a certain age where you should start specialising, or do you think it's like an individual?
I think there is a bit of research out there. I guess the idea is from our perspective, you kind of want to have been through puberty, past all of that growth period. Most sports, you're really waiting till at least the late teens to truly specialise. Some sports would argue slightly differently, particularly more the individual-based ones, but definitely in team sports. You don't have to be an elite athlete at 10. There's pretty much no relationship between being the best player at 10 or 11 and then making it as an elite athlete later. So, from that perspective, there's no need to specialise. And from an injury risk perspective, there's definitely no need to specialise till later on.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on how COVID-19, like say if we get back into the season and the next month or so, what are your thoughts on how the break will impact like injuries, the amount of injuries we might see?
I think normally what we see in the statistics is that around that April-May period, which is when competition starts usually, you see a big spike in injuries. So it's about 300% increase in injuries within netball. Wow. So it's quite a lot. And we see that in clinic practically too. We go, oh, look, that netball started or whatever, But particularly in netball, we know that there is a big spike in those injuries, which tells us that at that time, potentially our players weren't prepared for the demands of gameplay. Yeah. Because, they would have been training for a little while before that, but games hadn't really kicked off until that April-May period. So my guess would be that this is probably going to be pretty similar post-lockdown, that, realistically, if people haven't been working and doing some kind of strengthening or running or other activities to keep themselves fit, or even netball-specific stuff, the likelihood is that there will be a spike in those injuries. So it's being really mindful of that, I guess, as a player and a coach too.
Yes.
Because, I guess it'd be really important just to know where you're at. So from a coach, asking the players, have you been sitting on your bum baking and watching Netflix, or or have you been training? What have you been doing? And getting a really good gauge of that, and not going too hard too fast. Yeah,
definitely. And because it's so short, people might try and jump straight in, but
and there's no shortcuts. You can't make up for the fact that you haven't done the work, but if there's an appreciation of that, you can start now, and I know there's some really good resources to support all of that. I know that my NetballSmart crew that I used to work with have been working on some resources for players and coaches about, just some really basic strengthening and fitness-based programs. And I know you've been posting some stuff on the Hamilton City page, and it's like, it might sound like a broken record, but it's so important to the prevention of getting injured in the first place, but then also being able to play the game and enjoy it. It's no fun on the sideline. So
no, it's no fun joining a team and then being gone the next week. So
so in our Magic environment, we've been finally given the green light to start training this afternoon. So that is awesome. Really looking forward to that. But we are testing our players, so we need to see where they're at, what they look like. Do they match what we know they were like when they left, so that we can make sure that the training is appropriate to minimise their risk of getting injured.
So will that be your first thing tonight? Will you be doing all your testing? And then, so did you do any testing pre-lockdown, knowing that we're coming into lockdown, or?
Not right then, but regularly, Barry does regular testing within their programming anyway. So we've got some good benchmarks of what that kind of looks like. So it's just, we didn't have the capacity to do a full battery of tests before lockdown, unfortunately. That would have been quite good, actually. Good idea for next time if it ever happens.
Next pandemic.
We've got a lot of information about our players, so we'll have a good idea as to where they are So yeah, so I guess we have the luxury of knowing that information. Some of our coaches in the community won't, but
Definitely, yeah.
but I guess, ask the questions. Have they been doing the work? Get them to be honest, like it was a really tough time. Some people may have like gone crazy with exercise and thought it was wonderful, and the others might have just been sitting there going, oh my gosh, this is a really scary situation. So, ask where they're at and then be, I guess, mindful of that. You can't expect them to go out all guns a-blazing and make up for the last 8 weeks in a matter of 4. So
yeah, definitely. What are your personal hobbies, like outside of sport?
Outside of netball sport or just general? So I normally, when I wasn't involved with Magic, I was playing squash, but inter-club clashes with Magic, so I still try and get down there. Lockdown's been good for me. I've been running, so that's nice. So I've started running a lot more regularly. But then hobbies, I go fishing. So fishing is my passion. Absolutely love getting out on the boat, and got out on Saturday and caught some nice snapper and gurnard. So good. And we're renovating our house at the moment, so that also, why not chuck something else in there. And obviously I've got 2 gorgeous girls who are 5 and 8, and so they keep me busy as well. They also love netball, funnily enough. I don't know where they get that from.
born on the sideline.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, so they could run a NetballSmart warm up by themselves, I think. So
yeah. So you coach their teams as well, don't you?
Yeah. So I'm not sure what that'll look like this year quite so much, but yeah, previously I was coaching their Future Ferns netball, so they both love it. And Zara's only 5, so she was keen to play this year, so we'll see how that goes. But otherwise, they've got a ball and hoop at home, and they chuck it around. Yeah. So it's good.
And they got a physiotherapist for mum, so they'll be keeping active.
yeah, they've been riding their bikes while I go running, which is quite cool. And,
oh, nice.
Doing all sorts, and they quite like touch as well, so they play a little bit of that in the backyard and run around with our dog, and so try and keep them outside and off the iPad.
That's the hard part. So what are the most injuries you see in netball?
So the most serious would be our ACL injuries. So that's that big ligament on the inside of our knee that keeps it really stable. So that's usually a really significant injury for someone that does happen to have it, and keeps them out of netball for at least a year, usually, depending on their age. But the most common would be the ankle sprain. And when we look at our data about it, is ankle sprains actually have the most what we call time burden. So they're the ones often people consider them to be really basic and simple injuries, but they actually are the ones that keep you out of sport the most. Okay, so if you take ACL out of the picture, your ankle sprains actually keep you away from your sport for the longest. Well, for people anyway, and that's what we see in our ANZ stats too. So ankle sprains are the highest sort of burden or time burden. So and so I highly recommend. Ankle sprains aren't as simple as people consider them to be. And so there's a lot more to them, particularly because our sport for netball involves single leg jumping and landing, and so you need to have a really good awareness, stability, strength and control through your ankle to nail that, let alone your knee.
And if your ankle's not stable, your knee's not going to be stable. What are the what would be like the best thing people can work on if they're coming back from an ankle injury?
One is making sure you've actually got the same amount of movement in both sides, or close to, because often we see restricted movement, and if you haven't got as much bend in your ankle, often when you land you can't absorb that force quite so easily, so you put pressure elsewhere like your knee or your hip or other bits and pieces. And then balance would be one of the other main things, so trying to be able to, you should be able to stand on one leg with your eyes closed and not fall over.
Okay.
For a period of say 10 seconds, and with your eyes open, maybe 30 seconds, without too much flailing around and those sorts of things. So, and then ideally, if I was being really picky, which I usually like to be, is being able to do at least kind of 20 single leg calf raises. So being able to go up and down on your toes with control for 20 repetitions as a minimum.
Awesome.
Simple little benchmarks, but
yeah, that's a good little test that people could use, like coming back to make sure that they are ready, because sometimes you feel ready but actually your injury is still only half healed, or only half ready. But
yeah, and the injury, the inflammation process, all of those things will calm down, but often our brain is really tricky. It'll do what's easiest for it, not necessarily what is best. And so you can develop, weakness or, poor control because you're just not using it the way you did before your injury. And so, you can get back to sport. That's not usually the issue. It's more the fact that your awareness isn't as good, so you're more likely to re-injure that ankle. Because we know that if you've injured your ankle, within the next 2 years, you are likely to do it again from the stats you get from ACC. So if you don't look after it really well that first time, it's highly likely it's going to happen again. But you can actually prevent that by doing some really good work in the first place.
Yeah. Do you have any tips for our community, especially our community netballers, before they come back to play?
Start training now.
Last week.
Last week, hopefully. No, so there's still heaps of stuff you can do by yourself. So I know certainly in community sports a little bit different to what's happening in our Magic environment, just due to different rules and regulations and around what's going on there. So you can still do a whole heap of strengthening and or fitness training, even ball work, work within your kind of friend bubble, if you like, that you can still practice some of those skills that you're going to need on the netball court. And so the biggest base we know is if you're strong and fit, the rest of it will come, So I'd be focusing on the strength and the running or biking, running preferably, you're on a court, so to really build that strength and that capacity to get back on the court, to actually start preparing you for the types of things you're doing. One of the things we asked our players to do was a couple of times a week at a minimum to still be doing a kind of NetballSmart type warm-up, so they were still practicing all of those kind of movements even in lockdown without other players around them. So still having jumping, landing, dynamic preparation, change of direction activities within what they did, not just go for a straight line run, that's not what we do in our sport. So that's great for fitness, depending on how you're structuring it, but we still want to be specific to the activities you're going to do on the court. So over the next sort of 4 or whatever weeks it might be, really thinking about prioritizing, getting a bit more netball specific. So I know there's resources. I think there's one that's coming out soon called Prepare to Play for coaches. That has got a lot of guidance on that, but there's already some on the NetballSmart website that have a running, biking and bodyweight circuit type program on the website that people can download, and also a preparation program that has some circuits that also incorporate netball specific movements. So there's lots of resources and information out there, but I guess the hardest part is just people doing it, because it's sometimes a bit harder when you're not motivated or not right there in that team environment. Particularly important for our kind of year 7, 8 up, to really be focusing in on doing something that almost mimics their netball training a wee bit, so the transition isn't so tough.
Especially if they're people that, it is a team sport, so we're people that like training with others and stuff like that, but
yeah.
different.
Yeah, there is a lot of technology out there. So, grab your phone, get on FaceTime or whatever, and you could be training with your mate next door to each other, and just go, right, we're going to do this. And simple things. You could basically have a list of exercises and get your friend to go, right, we're going to do 5 of these ones, and off we go, and you kind of are doing it together, but maybe at your own house. So simple ways of trying to find some motivation, which can be a little bit tricky when you're used to, I think what sport is so good for is that social connection, especially for females. We love getting there, hanging out, catching up, and then working hard together. So yeah, that part is often the bit that gets you there in the first place. So so that can be harder, but not unachievable.
Definitely, yeah. Well, we'll probably wrap it up there, but thank you so much for your time.
No worries.
And good luck for tonight. Good luck to the girls and to all the staff and everything.
Yeah, it'll be exciting. Be nice to see everybody.
Yes, it will be.
Ear hugs.
Yeah. So we'll see you guys we'll be watching live soon.
Yeah, I know. I think our first game is the 19th of June.
19th of June.
Yeah, well, that's when the league starts back up. So a month on Friday. So that's 4 weeks on Friday. So that's exciting.
Awesome work. Yeah, so keep up the good work, and we will see you then.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.